Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about Kanye West and his very shocking, unpredictable announcement for running for president in 2020. I was very shocked and surprised by this, as many in the world were at this time. As many of you may know, Kanye West is an entertainer. I believe he's like a rapper, musical artist, and sings gospel. His sun is in Gemini, of course. I mean, basic nature, very versatile, about diversification. The only thing he maybe has, one of the few things has to worry about is dissipating oneself through lack of unifying purpose in a way. But he actually has shown a lot of purpose. His chart actually has like 5 planets in fixed signs, so he obviously has a lot more persistence, determination, fixity, and purpose than the typical Sun in Gemini person. His Mercury is in Taurus, so I'm sure when Kanye West, when he makes up his mind he's going to do something, he actually has a lot more follow through, a lot more persistence than the typical Gemini Sun. That his mind, it can probably be somewhat intransigent. The Sun in Gemini, he could be, as far as his basic character goes, he might be very voluble and loquacious, but with the Mercury in Taurus, I'm sure he's more fixed in his viewpoints than the typical, more intransigent, fixed in his viewpoints than the typical Gemini Sun. One thing I noticed when this happened. Now here's the problem. Is that Astro.com doesn't have a confirmed birth time for him. I mean, there's Astro Theme has him at Cancer Rising. I'm going to use this reluctantly, but remember that Cancer Rising chart reluctantly. But remember, this is not, I mean, if it's not confirmed on Astro.com, it's not like that irrefutable evidence, basically, that confirms an actual chart. So we'll use the Cancer. I'm going to use the Cancer Rising chart. But that's on astrotheme.com. It gives like an 8 something a.m. birth time. It might be like 8:45 a.m. birth time. He's Gemini, moon in Gemini Sun again, moon in Pisces. When this shocking announcement occurred, of course, yesterday we were having this lunar eclipse. Well, July 4th. So July 4th we had this lunar eclipse, and the thing about that is, I mean, it was in Capricorn. If that chart is accurate on astrotheme.com, he would have had that transit in the sixth house. It would have made an in conjunct to the Gemini Sun at that time, which of course could be an adjustment period for major adjustment period, of course, for Kanye West. This is something where, I mean, you're talking about when you're talking about full moon, lunar eclipses in astrology, they could be about major revelations and unveilings. They can be ones that could be very monumental, might have a prodigious impact on one's life. Of course, it could mark a major turning point and have more significance than a regular full moon. You're talking about the moon in Capricorn, transit moon in Capricorn. If this was indeed in the sixth house at the time, the full moon lunar eclipse in the sixth house, this could be the revelation of something government political related, which of course is associated with Capricorn. That would be connected with work and employment, and the fact this making it in conjunct to his Gemini Sun, I mean, obviously could be a major, you're talking about a major adjustment. That would be probably a vast understatement, because the Gemini Sun, of course, the basic nature can be mercurial, is about variety, diversity, and not always serious. And I mean, Gemini people can be very, very whimsical. But when you're talking about this Capricorn energy, it's something that's very serious, more regimented. Gemini is not overly consistent. Capricorn is more about diligence, more about discipline and structure. So this would be something that could be a major adjustment in terms for Kanye West. Now, it's very unlikely that he can actually win. I mean, an election. We have to obviously when you delineate things in astrology. Of course, you've got to factor in the common sense and then with the transits that are taking place and natal placements or what have you. But the fact he's got a number, I mean, he's got the transit Jupiter. If that Cancer rising chart is correct, transit Jupiter would be in the seventh house at this time. Though it is retrograde, that could actually be auspicious in terms of dealing with government. I guess you could say government opponents. I'm sorry, opponents or adversaries at this time, and the transit Pluto in the seventh house would indicate the power over government adversaries as well at this time. So the fact that Kanye West does have his Jupiter conjunct his Sun in Gemini, of course, that's a very beneficial, very fortuitous for what the person wants in life. And Gemini Sun, of course, could be about their variety. I'm sure he obviously probably has a very strong way with words when he does his singing, and anything that could be Gemini related. And the thing about him too is what I've noticed is that he's something interesting in his chart. He has based on the Cancer rising chart, he has a mutable T-square configuration, which involves the Sun in Gemini making an opposition to Neptune in Sagittarius, and it's squared by the Moon in Pisces. So the thing about this is the fact that you have the Sun making the opposition to Neptune. That could indicate somebody that can't that you might have this insatiable urge for having dreams, ideals, fantasies fulfilled, but can never quite do it because it seems almost out of reach to do it. It's not that he hasn't been able to do this, obviously, because if you look at his success, what he's done in his prosperity, he's obviously been very successful. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, his net worth is like over $1 billion, or his net worth is either over $1 billion, or he's accumulated over $1 billion in his life. So he obviously is very affluent and prosperous, but it doesn't mean that he's not necessarily unsatisfied with what he does in terms of his dreams. And Sun in Gemini, of course, can go in so many different directions and have so many manifold interests and wants, and their life is often about just wanting to do so many things, exploring, doing such a variety of interests. And you have the Neptune opposing it. Now, the Moon in Pisces, when you're talking about the focal point and a T-square configuration, of course, that could be represent the point of overemphasis and over accentuation that might be emphasized too much. Now, that based on the Cancer rising chart, that would be the Moon in Pisces in the ninth house. The Moon in Pisces could be a manifest in that public image, that public persona, perhaps, is wanting to be recognized as that rapper. I mean, being a rapper, I'm sure can be connected with poetry, with rhyming. Pisces is associated with that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's done dancing as well. I haven't followed him too much, so I really don't know that, but it wouldn't surprise me if he does some dancing as well from time to time when he's doing his performances, because Pisces can be associated with that. And also, I believe he's a Christian person as well and does gospel music, and Pisces can be connected with spirituality. So this is maybe how he deals with that energy, the exasperation, that tension from that opposition from Sun to Neptune. Now, the thing about and Neptune in Sagittarius, though generational, can also have the dreams being associated with matters, with creed, with culture, with races. And I'm sure the thing that he's going to emphasize when he gets in, if by any remote minuscule chance he was to somehow miraculously win this thing, it's going to emphasize things with creed and culture, and in more fairness in terms of I would say just races in general. This is a situation. I mean, you look at this, it's obviously going to be very hard pressed for him to win, emerge victorious in this, because keep in mind there's like, I think like 6 states where he's not even eligible to even get on the ticket at this point. But he's going to currently be running as like an independent, I believe, in party. Another thing that I noticed too is that he's going at this time. He had a transit Uranus was hitting the 11th house, and this could be, I mean, 11th house could be connected with ballots. Uranus, of course, could be very unpredictable. So if he does run, he might get more ballots. There might be more votes for him than a lot of people actually would anticipate. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that, I'm back. But anyway, really don't have too much more to say on this. I do notice again that he does have, I mean, having the 5 planets that are going, I mean, in fixed signs against somebody that can be a little bit more, call immutable or intractable than the typical Gemini Sun. He's obviously got more, I would say, more direction than most Gemini people. And if his ascendant is Cancer, even though Cancer is not a fixed sign, it can be one. Cancer ascendant could have outward projection of being very dedicated and devoted and tenacious, and can show unequivocal love for whatever it is they're doing, relentless persistence for what they really desire the most. And I think if he does continue and pursue this, he's going to do this all the way to the end. It's not going to be something where he just says, "Oh, maybe I'll take this day off or I'll take that day off, and I'm going to just kind of do this intermittently." I really actually see him as somebody that's going to really steadfastly, really pursue this if he does, assuming he does continue with this. And I'm sure a lot of this is going to be, we're going to be more cognizant and knowledgeable about what he does as far as this goes in the coming, and as far as the next month or so goes. And the thing is, he also had, I believe he did something with, he's been involved with some success or prosperity in the fashion realm. He does have the Venus in Taurus, and then the conjunction with Mars could be a lot of initiative and enterprise in maybe doing something. The fact that conjuncts Venus, a lot of initiative and enterprise and drive in doing something fashion related, and being in Taurus, doing so maybe in a methodical, very deliberate manner. But I mean, Taurus is the sign of money. He has Venus in Taurus, of course, being its dignity. Um, it's obviously he has it in a very good place. And anyway, and the only thing is, if he has a Cancer ascendant, those planets in Capricorn are making a very loose opposition to the Cancer ascendant, so he might have to relinquish some of the things that he likes to do that are more self-centered, Cancer related, that could be connected with the home or nostalgia, memorabilia, the family, people he's close to home. But doing his rest, the Cancer ascendant, the outward projection can be seen as somebody that's that consummate or quintessential rescuer, and he's going to have that opposition to it. I mean, he's doing things, sympathizing with others more, where he has this energy, it would be opposing the Cancer ascendant, would be more about what he's going to be doing in terms politically, and matters with others as well. Perhaps maybe, as far as the partnerships and collaborating with others on those political ventures, as opposed to doing Cancerian things that are more about himself, what he really wants to do for his own, maybe more personal satisfaction. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.